So again, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for your participation today. And also thank you very much, Sophia, Elena, and Marina and Victor for their help and all the support organizing the events and promoting them among the Ukrainian community. My name is Paloma Marina Raiza. I work at ORCID and work together with SSTL of Ukraine, coordinating the Ukrainian ORCID Consortium. We've been working together for some months now, and Sophia indicated that there were some questions among the Ukrainian community, and this is what I would like to cover today. And of course, you're more than welcome to use the chat for any question you have during the presentation or after it. So before I start with my presentation, I would like to know a bit more about you, and this is why I've created this Mentimeter. I hope it goes. Yes, so if you go to menti.com and use that code 72901236, you should be able to access this pool. I've translated the questions into Ukrainian using DeepL. So if there is any issue, please, apologies for that. So I would like to know, first of all, if your organization is an ORCID member or not, or if you don't know, maybe you simply are in this event because you wanted to know more, but aren't sure about your organization. If you have any issue accessing the Mentimeter, let me know.
Шановні колеги, прошу перейти за посиланням на multimeter.com. Бачите, зверху у пані Паломи написано, там є код, і ті, хто пише в чаті, скористуйтесь, будь ласка, вашим телефоном, і тоді ми будемо бачити на екрані, як змінюється. Прошу, будь ласка, це зробити. Бо багато пише в чаті yes, тому прошу перейти там.
Де?
I'm reading the chat as well, so I'm
go to, бачите, написано go to multimeter.com. Будь ласка, пропишіть це в пошуку і вам видасть. І введіть цей код 7298 12 36. Дякую.
Марина, а якщо я з ноутбука, то можна?
Да, звісно, можна з ноутбука.
А колеги, все активно? Воно повністю копіює www.cementi.com, а далі вводите код 7298 1236 потрібно вводити все.
Да, все працює.
Угу.
Well, I see some yeses also in the chat, some no's as well. And here we have like a good number of people that are ORCID members. Their organization is a member. Some of you aren't, and some of you don't know. So we will be going through all the questions you might have during this presentation. Let me jump to the next one. And here I would like you to type in the box here what systems or system is or are in use in your organization. And here I'm referring to repository, for example, DSpace, journal platform, for example, OGS, another type of repository, and this, because today we are going to be covering integrations. So this is also important for me to know. DSpace OGS, super big there. Perfect. More DSpace, fantastic. DSpace, Scopus, Web of Science, OGS. The own one, that's a very good point. We will cover developments that are in the organization. Elsevier, Scopus, information from Elsevier and Scopus, fantastic. Web of Science, of course. I keep seeing DSpace and OGS very big there. ResearchGate, that's an interesting point. Although I was referring more to systems that are installed in your organization, not only systems that your members. I'm happy to see so many DSpace and OGS. That's fantastic. Scopus, Web of Science, that's great. Let me check the chat. DSpace OGS 3, it is fantastic. OGS 3, we're going to mention about that one. DSpace.
Good morning.
Great.
Починаємо нашу зустріч.
Так, починаємо. Так.
Доброго дня, шановні колеги. Ми вдячні всім, хто знайшов можливість доєднатися до нашої зустрічі. Минулого року в рамках євроінтеграційних процесів Міністерством освіти і науки України було прийнято рішення щодо створення національного консорціуму ORCID в Україні для наукових установ і закладів вищої освіти. На час створення національний консорціум ORCID було визначено 17 українських установ-членів. Софія. У зв'язку з російською агресією організація ORCID відмінила плату щорічних членських внесків на 22-24 роки для учасників українського консорціуму і прийняла рішення розширення консорціуму та збільшення кількості її членів. Тому ми запрошуємо українську наукову спільноту доєднатися до національного консорціуму ORCID в Україні, що дасть можливість закладам вищої освіти і науковим установам інтегрувати свої інституційні репозитарії та електронні архіви до ORCID. Державна науково-технічна бібліотека України визначена головуючою організацією національного консорціуму ORCID, на яку покладено ряд завдань. Це адміністративна підтримка консорціуму, підтримка та супроводження нових членів консорціуму, працевлаштування фахівців, які будуть підтримувати роботу консорціуму, розробка ресурсів, комунікаційних матеріалів та проведення заходів, розробка та ведення документації, робота зі спільнотою у напрямках визначення цілей, розробки політики та методу управління консорціумом, налагодження регулярного звітування про прогрес роботи для членів консорціуму. Сьогодні ми плануємо обговорити питання щодо технічних моментів інтеграції учасників українського консорціуму до ORCID, особливості роботи з Affiliation Manager та іншими інструментами ORCID. Лідером нашого національного консорціуму призначена Софія Жеребчук. Передаю їй слово і бажаю плідної праці всім учасникам нашої зустрічі.
Я не знаю, що...
Гарної роботи.
Доброго дня, шановні учасники. Мене нормально чути?
Чути.
Да, вас чути, проте ми, на жаль, вже почали вебінар, у нас триває голосування.
Я зрозуміла. Добре, тоді зараз передаю слово просто Паломі, яка далі продовжить голосування вебінар. Ось, якщо будуть якісь питання, я зараз в чаті поділюся просто контактами і моїми, і співробітника IT-відділу, який буде відповідати на якісь технічні питання. Будуть запитання в кінці, будемо дуже вдячні. Добре. Dear Paloma, sorry, you can continue. Sorry for interrupt you.
No problem at all. That's absolutely no problem. I was just great. So thank you very much for answering this question. I know I have now a better overview of systems and the main questions you might have about these systems. So I hope that the presentation that I'm going to do right now, it's going to be helpful. So now I am moving to the presentation, which is this one. And I translated it into Ukrainian using DeepL. I checked with Sophia and she mentioned that there might be a couple of grammar mistakes, so I apologize for that. But the idea today is that we discuss and cover how a system and an institution can integrate with ORCID. As mentioned, I don't speak Ukrainian. I use DeepL to translate these slides. So I apologize for any grammar mistake. And I hope that in general, the content is understandable. If you have any questions, then I'm pretty sure Marina and Sophia can help you understanding the content better. And yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any question you might have. So this is me, and I'm here to help you. As mentioned before, my name is Paloma Marina Raiza, and I work at ORCID as an engagement manager, working with consortia, in particular the Ukrainian consortium, among others. And together with the team at SSPL of Ukraine, I'm more than happy to support the Ukrainian community towards an ORCID integration. So first of all, what we are going to be covered is why someone should integrate, why an organization should integrate with ORCID. And at the end, the idea is to make researchers' lives easier because you're going to be able to add data to your researchers' records. And organizations that are ORCID members can add that data to records and also synchronize data, which means add data to the ORCID record, but also read data from the ORCID record. And as you know, names aren't unique. And also we deal with translations and different alphabets. For example, in the case of Ukrainian language, we have one alphabet. In the case of English language, we have another alphabet. So how do you write your name with Ukrainian alphabets and with English alphabet? How are these names associated to the same publication? ORCID can be a solution for that or can help with that. And this is why we always speak about integrations. Okay, so then let's cover what exactly an ORCID integration is. When we are speaking about integrations, what are we referring to? And that's the main question. So here, what I want to show you is what is an integration and what isn't an integration. So at the end, an integration is the possibility to connect two systems with each other. And in this case, to connect an institutional system, for example, a repository or a journal platform, with ORCID using the ORCID API. Yeah, I'm going to mute all participants so that we don't have background noise. Then another important point for ORCID integrations is that we need an authentication process. And in that authentication process, researchers know who they are granting permissions to. And an ORCID integration is not looking up data or reading data using ORCID. That's not the only part. We need an authentication process. So now I'm showing what an authentication process is. So many times when you are in a platform, you will find probably this type of button saying create or connect your ORCID ID. With that, you will jump into this type of interface where you have your name and your ORCID ID. Then you will have a system that is asking for permissions, and then you will have the type of permission. So if I'm describing that, first of all, we have the person, and doing a authentication process guarantees that that person is connected to that ID precisely. Then, as mentioned, we have who is asking. So which institution, which organization? In this case, I picked the journal platform of the University of Milan in Italy, but it could be any other organization. And finally, we have the permissions, the rights that are being asked for. In this case, the University of Milan is asking to add and update research activities like works, affiliations, peer reviews, and others. Okay, so how can we move forward with that, right? We have, or we are going to present 4 options that you can use in order to integrate with ORCID, right? The first option is what we call certified service providers. And certified service providers are systems that have a built-in capacity to authenticate with ORCID records and add information to ORCID records. And if you are using one of those systems, then the service provider is your first point of contact if you have any question or if you are not sure how to move forward. And here, and this is why I was happy when I saw this space and OGS popping up so many times, is that this space, the version 7.3 and coming versions, OGS and ePrints or DSpace Chris are part of this category, this option 1 that have built-in capacities. Okay, so what I have in this presentation, in this slide, and you will have these slides available afterwards, I've linked here the corresponding documentation. So if you have a DSpace 7 repository, you have the documentation there, you have an OGS system version 3 or 3.3 or the version that you're using, but always in the 3 schema, DSpace Chris or ePrints, you will have the documentation there. It is important to know, the other day, one Ukrainian organization sent a message asking about their repository, and they are using the DSpace 6.3, not 7.3, but 6. In this case, there is no capability to authenticate authors and send data to ORCID. However, in the version DSpace 6.3, you will be able to read data from ORCID. But that's not exactly an integration, but there is this option as well. Okay, then the second option is to use a vendor system. It doesn't matter if that's a commercial one or a open source one that has any kind of capability, but not exactly certified as mentioned before. When I'm referring to certified options, are the options that fulfill ORCID best practices. So here, for example, we might have Pure from Elsevier as CRIS system, or Dataverse and Invenio as repository systems, or Symplectic Grant Tracker as funding system, or Manuscript Manager as publishing system. They offer an ORCID capability, but is not completely certified. In this case, also, the vendor will be your first point of contact if something isn't working. But then, of course, the consortium lead, in this case, SSTL of Ukraine, will work together with us, with me and my team, in order to help you with the integration. So that's fine. We know these two options, but now what I need to do, basically, if I have DSpace 7.3 or OGS 3, and I would like to integrate with ORCID. So here the workflow is relatively easy. We have only two steps. The first one is that ORCID pre-approve this integration. So ORCID works together with DSpace, OGS, DSpace, CRIS, and so on to guarantee that best practices are fulfilled and that the integration is ready to go. Member organizations can, of course, test in the sandbox if they want. The sandbox is the test environment, but that's not mandatory. So you can do that or not. Then the second step will be production. So you're almost ready to go. And in that second step, what you will need to do is apply for member API credentials and then launch your integration. That will be it. If you're a Ukrainian consortium member and you have, for example, OGS 3 and would like to integrate, ask SSTL of Ukraine, they will point you to the form, which is linked here as well, and then you are ready to go. So it is easy and simple. We have also the option 3. Option 3 is when you are creating your own platform. So you have developed a system for your organization beginning from zero, and you are not using DSpace or any other type of software. So you are creating something from zero. In this case, you can talk to us and also to SSTL to find out the best steps and the documentation. Once you read through the documentation, you can use the sandbox testing environment or sandbox testing server in order to test your integration. Then once you fulfill the minimum requirements and the integration best practices, then you are ready to go and to apply for production credentials. And this option is not as simple as the previous ones, but we are, of course, open to help you with all the steps. So let's have a look at the process here, the workflow. So first of all, you will need to test in the sandbox. And for that, you can request sandbox credentials. Once you've been testing in the sandbox in the sandbox environment and checking that everything works, you can move ahead. If you have questions, you can reach out to SSTL of Ukraine or to us if the question is more complex. Then we need to review that. Integration. And for that, what we use is a checklist where we see if you are fulfilling all the requirements related to authentication, write, read, and synchronize. And we do that through either some screenshots that you send to us, screenshots from your application, or a screen recording, a screencast, where we can see how a user will navigate your integration, your system. Ideally, as well, if you can send us a sandbox ORCID ID that has some data added by that integration. And then you can move to production. Once everything is approved, you can move to production, request production credentials, and launch your integration. And then the fourth option is, or option number 4, is the affiliation manager. The affiliation manager is available for consortium members. So at the moment, there are 17 organizations in Ukraine that are consortium members. And of course, new organizations are welcome as well. And with the affiliation manager, you will be able to send data about your researchers, staff, faculty, and so on in the fields of employment, education, membership, service, invited position, distinctions, and that's it, and distinctions. So how does the affiliation manager work? So we have a portal called the member portal. And if you access that, you will have the member, you will have the affiliation manager. So what you will do is using a CSV file that you upload with your staff, researchers, student data. From that platform, you have the option to send invites, to send authentication and authorization links to your researchers, as is described here in that picture. And then your researchers will get an authorization image similar to the one that I showed at the beginning. And they will grant permissions to the affiliation manager, and they will have an affiliation added to their ORCID records. The important part of that is the possibility of indicating the name of your organization, how you would like your organization to be displayed. This is important because there are many publishers and funders that read that affiliation data from ORCID. So if you write the data the way you would like the data to be read, then you guarantee that the name is correct. So let's see a bit about the workflow in the case of the affiliation manager. So first of all, what we really recommend is that you read the documentation and you get familiar with the affiliation manager. You can request access using the form that is available in the member portal. and again, checking the documentation, the affiliation manager guide, where all steps are explained. Then use the CSV file that I'm going to show in the next slides. Complete the data in the CSV file that is available, and then you can upload that data and generate the affiliations for your researchers. So this is the templates that we have for the affiliation manager for the CSV file. You will find this template linked in the documentation that you can check. And here you see some examples of how this file can be completed. So, first of all, you will have a column indicating the email address of your researcher. Then you will have the section. So is this an employment, a education, qualification, service, other? Then you have some fields that aren't mandatory, but you are, of course, welcome to add. The department name. So this is a person working in the library, or this is a person working in the faculty of physics. The role that they have, so they are professors, or they are lab managers, or they are librarians. The start date and end date, so when did they start it in that position, and when, if they aren't anymore in that position, when they finished, their activity. Then the organization name, and this is where you can write the name exactly as you would like it to be. Then you have the organization country, and there you need to use the country code, which in the case of Ukraine is UA. These fields, organization, of course, the organization city, and then the organization region is not a mandatory field, so you can add it or not. Then we have, again, two important fields, the disambiguated ID and the disambiguated ID source. So as you know, we work with different organization identifiers, particularly Ringgold, Grid, and ROR. So something that you need to use when adding data through the affiliation manager is the organization ID. So, for example, the ROR ID or the Ringgold ID of your organization. So then you will add the corresponding ID and the source, in this case, ROR, for example. And then your file is ready to be uploaded. And when it is uploaded, it will generate the authorization links for your researchers, students, employees, and so on. So this way you will be able to add this type of data. Okay, so now let's discuss a bit the best practices, what we recommend. And I'm sure that in this slide, I will have a lot of grammar mistakes in Ukrainian, so I apologize for that. But you can, of course, check the link that we have down below and see the integration best practices. But in general, what we are referring to when we speak about integration best practices is that the experience for your researcher, staff, authors is a nice experience. So they know exactly what they are doing, that if you are adding data to their ORCID records, that this data is kept updated. So for example, if you're adding an affiliation and the person leaves the organization, that you add an end date so that that data is correct. If something happens And if something goes wrong, or if there is a technical problem in your integration, it is also very important that you provide your users with information or with a email they can contact if they have any problem, right? The reason why I'm mentioning this is many times we get requests from users saying, I can't connect to my system, or I'm getting this error. And sometimes it's also because of a change in the organization or something. So it is very important that you also provide your users with this type of support. Of course, we're more than happy to help you with all these best practices. Okay, so now how we guarantee that our integration is successful, right? So we can say more or less that an integration or the integration process has 3 steps, but these 3 steps aren't isolated, but they are connected, right? So first of all, you should begin planning your integration, right? Why are you integrating? What do you want to do? Then the integration per se, the technical part. And for the technical part, you have these 4 options that I've just mentioned. And then once your integration is finished, you launch it. So you announce it around your organization and you explain to people how this integration is going to work. It is very important that your researchers, students, faculty, your authors know about that in advance so that you create some awareness about that. For example, imagine that you are going to integrate ORCID in your journal platform in OGS, right? The technical integration is relatively straightforward. It has a graphical interface, so that's not complicated. What's complicated is that you actually engage with your community. So that you talk to your editors and you mention, hey, we are using OGS, we should begin mentioning this, that you mention that to the authors of that journal. And then finally, when everything's ready, that you say, right now, you can connect your ORCID ID in the platform, you can export publications, you can export peer review, and so on, so that people are basically already aware of that and engage with the idea. So I'm adding here some points that you can consider when you're planning your integration, okay? So, and some questions that you can be asking yourself and within your organization. So first of all is, who is going to be involved in the creation of that integration and the communication of it? Should it be the library? Should it be IT, research office, human resources, other, right? Then, okay, we are using ORCID. We know that we are involving, for example, the library and IT. Now, we need to analyze where exactly do we want ORCID to appear. Is this a sign-in option? Are we using it for thesis and dissertation submission, for example? Or are we using it as part of our journal platform? Or we would like to add it to a conference registration or any other workflow that you can imagine. And I've added here the link as further information where you can check the different workflows that we suggest. This doesn't mean that you need to use those workflows exactly step by step, but this can help you guiding your integration planning, so to speak. Then it is also important to know where are you starting? So which type of IDs are you collecting? Which type of information do you want to add to ORCID records? Which type of information do you want to read from your integration? And also, which type of systems do you want to integrate? And maybe they already have some kind of ORCID capability. When we formed the consortium back in October, but also with all the previous conversations, the SSTL of Ukraine sent me a table that was extremely well designed. And there I could see, okay, this is the organization, this is the system that they have in use. And this helps a lot because we are able to indicate potential documentation for that particular system. For example, OGS documentation, DSpace documentation, and so on. And then, of course, other questions that you might be asking yourself and the organization. Are you picking IDs only for researchers or also from students? Or where exactly are you going to display that identifier that you collect? So these questions that I've added here in these slides might help you with the process of designing where to integrate and how to do it. So I would like to conclude this presentation indicating that integrating with ORCID is easier than you think. It might be a lot of information at the beginning, but don't worry about that. Take some clear steps. So first of all, check if you're using a system that has any type of pre-built ORCID integration. This will be the option 1 and 2 that I explained before. If you would like to develop your own integration because you have your own system, check with us, check the documentation, and we are more than happy to support. That will be the option 3 that I described before. And if you're a consortium member, and you can be a consortium member in Ukraine because we have a consortium in place, then think about using the affiliation manager, because that's also an easy option to include affiliation data. And that will be option 4 that I've mentioned before. And again, we are more than happy to support you with the process. And here I added some additional resources that might help you. And this is slightly more technical than the information that I provided before, but it is also interesting for you to have this general overview. And with that, I will open time for questions and answers. I think we have plenty of time for it. So I will stop sharing my slides and we can go to the chat. So let me pick from the chat the questions that are in English, and then I will wait for Sophia or Marina to help me with the ones that are in Ukrainian so that I can pick. So I will pick the question from Ola. Many of our employees already have their own ORCID account which they created using an email before. Please tell me which email should be used when we fill the CSV file. So that everyone is able to get the answer, I will share my screen again with the presentation so that you know what we are referring to. So here in the CSV file, you need to enter an email address of your researchers, right? And the question is very intelligent. So should we use the ORCID ID, the email address that our researcher used when they registered, or can I use any other address? It doesn't matter. You can pick the address you prefer. You can pick the institutional address, which is probably the one you have. This email here is not related or doesn't have to be related to the email address associated to the ORCID account. That email here in this first column is only the email where they are going to get the notification, okay? Then when they get the notification, they will have an authorized page and they will need to enter their normal ORCID credentials, and they can do that with the normal email that they have associated with the ORCID account. So here in this first column, you can enter the institutional email address without any problem.
Okay, maybe the participant who leave this question in Ukrainian also told that can ask you by yourself. So maybe Ms. Anna Harlamova to ask you your question.
Please.
Yes. Thank you, Paloma. Thank you for a very interesting presentation. I represent Taras Shevchenko National University. And actually, we, like a few years ago, we had a big campaign when each researcher is supposed to receive ORCID and use it actively. So it's not a question for us that each of our research is integrated, as I understand. But the question is that we now use for our journals OGS. Mm-hmm. And we, from one side, it's quite clear that we need to ask our authors to indicate their ORCID when they submit papers. But the question, I have actually two questions. We were told that we are connected to consortium, and mm-hmm. our university received some keys. Yes. That give us access to connect our reviewers through this platform of OGS to ORCID. Is it true? And actually, technically, have I missed information about how technically do it in your presentation? Because frankly speaking, I tried to be quite careful, but I didn't got how to do it. And what first steps should we start? And if we should do something next, please advise us. Thank you.
Sure. I'm more than happy to get to that answer. So what I'm going to do is I will share my screen again, so that everyone can see the steps, for example, for an OGS integration, as mentioned here. So let me share here again. So here, let me make it a bit bigger so that everyone can see it. Okay. So here, what we have is what we call the production or the client application. So when we're using OGS, for example, and a consortium member organization would like to receive those API keys, as mentioned, what we need to do, well, in this case, what you need to do is fill in this form. The webpage at this moment can't be translated into Ukrainian, so Ukrainian language isn't here, but it will be soon. So for those of you who aren't super fluent in English and prefer Ukrainian, will be soon there. But if not, what we need to do here is, the first question is, are you updating existing credentials? In this case is no, because that's a new entry, right? So we click here, no. Then we add here name of your organization. I'm going to do that simply as a test. So that's my test university. Here you have the primary contact email for credentials. I will add myself. And then we can see that we ask for a secondary email or phone for password. Why do we separate these? First of all, because in the first section, this first email address, so in this case, mine, will receive the credentials in an encrypted message. And the second one will receive a password to decrypt that message and get the credentials. So I'm using my personal email, Gmail address here, so we can move forward. And then here we are asked for some information about our platform. So in this case, I will add OGS of my test university. Then I go to the normal address of my OGS platform, like this, for example, test. Then here we have the possibility of describing our integration. So for example, OGS used at test university to collect IDs, for example. And then here we have the most important part is the redirect URIs. Here it is the address to which I'm going to send users after they authenticate. So that registered address, okay? So in this case, I'm going to use this one as an example simply, but we have here some indications about how these redirect URIs should be, like HTTP, exactly match the domains, and we are able to register as many as you need. So if you have an OGS platform with 10, no problem. You can add the 10 journals here, and you can finish adding here in the notes for stuff. Then you say that you're not a robot, and you submit that. And you have this message. Thank you, it's been submitted. And we, as ORCID team, we get that request. So that will be the first step, right? And you will get the credentials. Then the second step is checking the OGS documentation. And here the OGS documentation for the ORCID plugin is very well detailed, actually. So you will see how you can use the plugin and all the resources you need. Something that is quite important is this part here, the set up the plugin. So if you go there, you will see the steps as well for the credentials. This one is the steps for the public API credentials, but in the case of Ukrainian members, you can go directly to the member credentials that I've just explained. Okay, so here, this part, the member credentials. And with the member credentials, you will be able to add works and peer reviews to ORCID records. And then you will see the options to configure the plugin. And it is very important that we go to the this option, site-wide setup, because normally the OGS platforms at universities, they don't host only one journal. They host more than one. So to be able to use ORCID in the whole platform, we need to pick this option, site-wide setup. Also, if you check the GitHub of PKP for OGS, you will find the workflow exactly for peer review, how you should configure that. I'm more than happy to share that together with the slides, but I don't have the link right now here. So I'm happy to share that afterwards as documentation as well. I hope.
Thank you.
Yeah,
seems I got it, but if we have questions, can we address to the library or to you directly?
You can go to SSTL and then they will. So basically, I communicate with SSTL very, very often. So every single time there is a question that is maybe more difficult and so on, they will escalate it to me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Great. There are other questions in Ukrainian. So I will translate them using DeepL, or maybe Sophia, Marina, if you can help me with the translations, I also appreciate it, so that I don't miss any.
It's about the International Agrarian University, but I think that Victor already answered, but nevertheless, International Agrarian University send a CSV file to ORCID, and till this date there is no answer. So it's a problem with affiliation manager or something.
I'm going to write this down. Olena, I don't know. I need to check that in the system. So I'm writing this down, and I will get back to you with an answer as soon as I can check it. Okay, so that I don't provide any incorrect information. I will answer via email, because probably I need to check the system in the back end, and I don't have the answer right now.
Okay, thanks. Maybe it's just the answer under the proceeding now, but thanks a lot. And maybe Victor share with you the contact of the International Agrarian University for the answer.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much.
Колеги, може є ще у когось якісь запитання?
Якщо у вас є запитання, пані Софія вам допоможе з перекладом.
Let me check if there is any other question here. Feel free to write the question in the chat, and I will get to them.
Dear Paloma, maybe after this meeting, we put our translation in our website, official website. So after that, maybe after a review of this material, some of our participants will have the question, and we will try to communicate with you and give the answer personally, maybe.
Perfect. Sophia, something that you can also do if you wish is, I'm sharing here in the chat. I wrote this article together with my colleague Nabil last week. Basically, we published that. So, and that's a summary of what I've explained today. So if you wish if you want to translate that one into Ukrainian to facilitate that everyone understands it, you're more than welcome to do it.
Yeah, sure. We just okay. Yeah, sure. We do it. Thanks a lot for this.
Perfect.
Yeah. Also, we have one question. Yeah. Also, we have the question, sorry, about the DSpace version of DSpace. So the answer, I think I know this answer, but nevertheless, this university have the have the DSpace only 6.3. Is it possible to use this version or need to update this version till the 7.3?
Yeah. So this is something that I briefly covered in the, let me share the documentation here in the chat. In order to have a complete integration with ORCID, it is needed to have the version DSpace 7. However, there is, let me check here. There is, with DSpace 6, the possibility of having some reading capabilities. So I'm adding it here. With DSpace 6, you will be able to read data from ORCID records, but you won't be able to integrate, like connect your researchers and send information. But there are some options. My recommendation is always to upgrade to version 7, but some universities don't find that version super stable. So I understand that they are still waiting to update. We have 2 hands up. So Ludmila, if you wish, you can begin.
Hello, Paola. Hello, колеги. Sorry, но я, якщо можна, задам українською питання, якщо перекладу.
That's perfect.
Yes. Скажіть, будь ласка, що робити і що рекомендувати авторам, які мають 2 оркіди, ми як члени організації, консорціуму, яким чином ми їм маємо допомогти обрати, наприклад, що ми їм маємо рекомендувати? Бо я не знаю, як у інших, у нас є багато таких авторів, які, на жаль, зробили собі декілька ідентифікаторів.
Можна я у вас просто уточню українською? Тобто ваше питання в тому, у вас є автори, в яких 2 і більше профілів ORCID, яким чином їм рекомендувати вибрати правильний?
Що ми їм маємо рекомендувати, як їм допомогти? От як їм визначитись?
І хотілося б додати, якщо можна, до цього питання, це тільки вони самі можуть робити, чи ми як правовласники, у нас така теж є проблема, ми як правовласники можемо в бібліотеках, наприклад, цим займатися, тобто спільно з авторами.
Дивіться, ви список авторів будете робити. В CSV файлі ви будете робити список авторів. Ви будете вносити... Добре, давай.
The question is there are two questions actually. So there are several profiles from one author, 2, 3, etc. What the algorithm, what have the university to do for recommend for recommendation for which profile choose from these several profiles. So and also the scientists only can just so the one step by step. The first question: if there are several profiles, in which way the university could recommend to choose the profiles, the right profiles?
So let me go to that one. So even if we have the situation where a researcher has more than one profile, normally researchers only use the one they prefer. But let me explain what can be done. So here is the normal ORCID platform where you can register for your ORCID ID. So I will enter in my profile so that I can show how you can do that. Or better say how a researcher can do that. So let me go in. I have this two-factor authentication. So, great. That's my profile, right? And here is my name. And if I click in this arrow, you will see account settings, right? So you jump into account settings. And here you see default, security, account actions, sharing, and so on. So if you go to account actions, you will have the option to download your data, to deactivate your ORCID account if you don't want that anymore. And then that here, remove a duplicate record. So if we know that a researcher has 2 IDs or more, then as a library, what you can do is recommend your researchers that they pick one ID, the one they use normally, and go here, remove a duplicate record. Then they click on this arrow and you will see here that you can enter the information of the second one that is not in use. And then this button here will be blue and you can remove that duplicated record. Okay, so that's the option if you know that a researcher has more than 1 IDs. Of course, we can have the situation where even there are 2 IDs with the same name, one isn't used at all. In that case, there is no problem because you will connect only the one that is in use and the one that the researcher is using. And something that we recommend always is that researchers associate 2 or 3 emails to their ORCID account, so that if they forget one ID, if they forget one password, they can use the other one or the other ID. And also, if I log out and I have an ORCID ID, but imagine that I say, no, I don't have an ORCID ID. Then I go here and say, okay, my name, Paloma, my second name, yes, Paifa. Then I will make up an email. Then I made up an email. Then I'm kind of registering for a new ID, right? Then when I click next, then all of a sudden the system says, wait, we already have a Paloma Marina Raiza here. So might this person be you? View the record so that you can see if that person is you, or maybe this person is you, or this person, right? So there is an algorithm showing potential accounts that can be related to that. So in this case, it's like, oh, right, that's me. So I already have an ID. Let's go back to the normal platform and sign in.
Okay, and second part, thanks a lot, Paloma. And second part of this question, could the libraries or university correct the profiles of their researchers, or it's just researcher should do it by themselves?
So the answer to this question is yes and no at the same time. So of course, researchers, let me begin. So only researchers can update information that they have entered. But the universities using an integration, they can add improved data. And let me share my screen again to show you what I'm referring to here. So let's go back to my record. Okay, so this is the public view of my record, right? So if you see here under employment, this is my current employment at ORCID, and the source of that information is ORCID, right? So only ORCID can update this entry. I can't do that. I can delete this one, but I can't update it. However, this one, my previous employment, is added by me. So then I can correct this entry, or I can change this entry, okay, for employment. But let's go to works. So in works, we have, let me pick an example here. Let's pick this entry here, right? You see that's a preprint that's added with a DOI. And here you see the source is Crossref, okay? After source, we always have the organization or person that has added that data. And then you see this star symbol, preferred source out of 2, right? So I prefer Crossref to be displayed there. But if I click on these 2, you can see that I also added that information manually, right? So what a university can do is, if they add information containing the same organization ID, sorry, the same work ID, as you can see here, this DOI is the same as this DOI. Both are going to be grouped. This way, an organization can correct that information. So I'm adding the same information I'm adding the same entry with the same ORCID, with the same work ID, DOI in this case, and the information is going to be combined. This way, I can correct, so to speak, the information that was added by researchers. But what I can't do as an organization is going to this entry here and change the data here. So I can add on top of that.
Thanks, Paula.
You're welcome. I think there is another question.
Пані Марія, ви теж хочете ще одне запитання задати?
Так, якщо можна, будь ласка. Yeah. Hello, Paloma.
Hi.
Thank you very much for this information. It's very important for us. But my question of Ukraine.
Yeah, no problem.
Sorry. Заздалегідь приношу вибачення, якщо воно буде дещо некоректним, а можливо я пропустила цю інформацію, прошу вибачення у колег. Скажіть, будь ласка, а як перевірити, чи є ми в наш університет в цьому консорціумі? Це перше запитання. І от чи можемо теж ми, як бібліотекарі, наприклад, правити от афіляцію чи неправильну назву нашого університету, наших авторів? Є у нас такі права якісь, чи будуть, чи як їх можна отримати? Дякую.
З якого університету?
Луганський національний.
А ви не підписували з нами ні ліцензовану угоду, ні заявку на приєднання, правильно?
Не знаю.
Не знаю. Добре, я перевірю список, я вам це питання відповім. А друге частину питання пані Софія переведе.
Добре, дякую.
Question was about how to check the presence of the university in the national consortium. So Marina just check it, and if not, we can just send the document to join our consortium.
Exactly. Perfect. I don't know if there are any other questions. If not, I will share with Sophia and Marina the presentation, both in English and Ukrainian. I will leave my email here in the chat. And also our support email also here in the chat. So you can email me, or of course Sophia and Marina, if you have any question about ORCID in Ukraine, or any integration or any step that you need. And I'm more than happy to keep working with you.
Thanks, Paloma. Just a few minutes. I just ask Luhansk University one more time about the question, because the two questions really, and the first part Marina already handles it, and the second part I have to translate. Вибачте, з Луганського університету щойно було запитаннячко. Можна другу частину повторити, я перекладу.
Так. Чи можемо ми, як бібліотека, правити афіляцію в ORCID, назву університету, там, наших науковців, чи ні?
Sorry. If the library of the Luhansk University can edit by itself the affiliation?
Yes, using the affiliation manager.
А як ми ці права можемо отримати?
how receive this right to in the affiliation manager to edit
yeah, so all consortium members can access the affiliation manager, and then you will go through the process of that file that I mentioned. And if I share briefly my screen again, I can go quickly to the presentation and pick exactly the slide. So you will upload the file to the affiliation manager, and then here this option says member portal sends authorization notification. So then your researchers will receive those permissions, and they will grant access to the university, and then the university can add the information. It will be like that.
Thank you, Paula.
You're welcome.
Так. Дивіться, щодо Луганського, у вас немає поки що в консорціумі. Ви запишіть там, я давала в чаті свій номер, зв'яжіться зі мною, будь ласка, добре?
Добре, дякую.
Шановні учасники, можна я одне слово, так як Hi, Paloma.
Hi, Sabina.
Yes. Так як ми розпочали створення консорціуму в 2022 році, так, перед, скажімо так, ще початок у нас був в 2021 році, коли ми тільки розпочинали спілкування з ORCID, і вже в 2022 році ми стали як головуючою організацією консорціуму ДНТБ України, і відповідно у 2022 році ми долучили до нашого консорціуму 17 членів консорціуму, тобто 17 чи наукових установ, чи закладів вищої освіти. І зараз у 2023 році планується долучення до консорціуму всіх бажаючих, хто хоче долучитися. Тобто, і якщо ви долучаєтесь до консорціуму, ви отримаєте розширені права до ORCID, відповідно, що і розповідала сьогодні Палома, це доступ до афілійованого менеджера і доступ, відповідно, до мембер-порталу і, відповідно, доступ до інтеграції з Open Journal System. Я думаю, що Софія і Марина зараз працюють над цим, тому хто має бажання долучитися і відповідно цю процедуру, тобто там відповідні документи потрібно оформити, ви можете зв'язатися з Софією і Мариною і відповідно вже працювати над цим. Тому що якщо у вас немає, ви не являєтесь членом консорціуму, ви просто не маєте доступу до афілійованого менеджеру і відповідно до інтеграції з ORCID. Дякую.
One more question from the chat, Paloma. I just try to answer. If the part of our researcher hasn't the one more time, I'm just check this the right of this question from the author. Дивіться, а що ви маєте на увазі, пані Вікторія, якщо у частини наших науковців не вказана афіліація у профілі, тобто просто немає зв'язку з ваших університетів, так? Я правильно розумію, так? Okay. I just translate. So if the part of our researcher hasn't the affiliation in the profile of the hasn't the affiliation, so could the university or library or administrator do it by themselves to put the affiliation, or just it's impossible?
No, it is possible. So basically there are two things here. If you're a consortium member, you can use the affiliation manager to add that data, but even if you have researchers that don't have the affiliation there at all, they can still connect to your application. The idea of having an affiliation is a way to see who belongs to which organization. But you can also work with your researchers' ORCID IDs without an affiliation. Ideally, you will have one, of course.
Okay, then. Thanks.
Perfect.
So I think if our participants have no questions, so we just after our meeting tomorrow, maybe tomorrow, we put our stream, this event in our website. All the materials that connect with this meeting we also put on our website, and we can and you can just find all the materials with our contact. And we have some question about information that today also today also was presented. So just send us the information this question, and we will answer it.
Many thanks, Sophia. I'm also saving the transcript of the presentation so that you can have also what has been said in case there is a need to translate that into Ukrainian. And yeah, as mentioned, I'm more than happy to answer all the questions you have. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, get in touch with Sophia, get in touch with Marina, and they will be also open to help you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Bye all.
Дорогі учасники, до побачення. Дякуємо за участь у нашому семінарі. Вся інформація буде у нас на сайті трошки згодом.
Дякую, до побачення.
Дякуємо, до побачення.
До побачення. Дякуємо за допомогу в перекладанні.
До побачення.
Дякуємо, до побачення.
Дякуємо, до побачення.